So let me take you through a demonstration, and we're going to take you through this demonstration using Richard. And Richard is a sales manager, and he has been building out some new promotions that have been really, really successful with the initial customers. And he now wants to push this out to his field teams. He wants to make sure that his field teams have access to the same capability to create these promotions with their accounts as he did. So how do I make sure that all of my sales reps are following that process? How do I make sure they all know they can create these promotions with their customers in the correct way with the right compliance checks? So that is something we're going to take you through right now. So here we are logged into Aforza, and I'm logged in as Richard. And Richard is using the Guides application in Visit Planning to create these best practice guides for his teams. So he can see that he's created a few guides already. He's got some guides for different types of outlets he might be visiting, guides for if you're doing pre-sales versus van sales, guides for on-trade versus off-trade. So you can create as many as you like. And Richard has been hard at work on this new promotion contract visit guide. And you can see there's 5 different versions. So he's been editing it and tweaking it to make it, as good as possible. And he's nearly there, and he's nearly ready to deploy this to his field teams, but he wants to make one more change based on some compliance check he needs to include. So he can click View on the Promotion Contract Visit Guide, and this is going to take him into the Guide Designer. So in the Guide Designer, Richard can see every single step that his team is going to need to take to complete this guide when they're in the field. So he can see there's 6 steps. The first step is collecting customer details. The second step is checking what stock they want to make available for promotion. And then the third step is, what merchandise might we want to add as part of this promotion. If we add merchandise, how are we going to display that and make sure that it's being displayed in the right location? Does the customer need any additional support for their employees through training or other aspects? And then, importantly, we need to make sure they accept the terms and conditions of that contract so that when we go in and we start executing this promotion, everyone knows exactly what needs to be done. So in each of these steps, I can open it up and I can see all of the individual components that go into that step. So I can see we're going to ask for the customer's details. We're going to ask when the promotion should start and finish. We're going to put any notes about the promotion. And then, for instance, in the stock area, we then start checking, what products do we actually need to stock as part of this promotion. And if we scroll down, we can see what type of discounting structure do we want to give to the customer as well. So the one thing that Richard missed was a planogram compliance question. So he's going to add that now into the display agreement area. And to do that, he's going to create a new version. So he clicks new version, and this is going to create a new version that he can start editing. So even if his field team is using the previous version, he can now start making changes, and when he's happy, he can publish those. So he is going to scroll down to the display agreement section. And on here, we can see we've got a number of questions around, the location that things need to be displayed, when the display is going to start and end, how much stock should be displayed, any compensation we're giving. But he wants to add a new question on here, and this is going to be simply a toggle. And the question is going to be, does the customer agree to have planogram checks done as part of this promotion? So let me type that in. And we've set this to be a toggle, so this is either a yes or no. We're going to set this to be required, so the customer has to answer this. I'm going to add that to the guide. So now we have the new question in here. It's been added to the guide in the appropriate step, and we're ready to deploy that to our teams. So all I have to do now is click Publish. He gives me a little warning saying this is going to be the new published version, and all of your team is going to start using this immediately. And when I confirm, this guide is published, and it's now available to all of my field teams in their appropriate accounts. So let's move on from Richard and swap over to the field team, and we'll see how the field team actually utilizes this guide during execution time and how they can start answering these questions to construct this new promotion. So here we are in the mobile experience. I'm now logged in as a sales user called Karina. And Karina is going to visit one of her large accounts, the Fresh Start Shop group. And she's going in for an account planning session. So there's a ton of stuff she wants to do while she's in this particular location. She wants to review merchandise requests. She wants to make sure stock is okay across the overall regional level. She perhaps wants to start some order capture. But the one thing she notices right at the top is this create new promotion contract. And this has come from that guide that Richard created and pushed to his field teams. So she immediately thinks, great, I can start creating a new promotion with this customer. I can start discussing it with them. So she can open it up. And this opens the guide. And this is going to take Karina through that step-by-step instructions that Richard created earlier and let her fill in all of the details and push that back to HQ. So we now have we have all of the records we need to create that promotion. So we can see at the top, there's 1 out of 6. That's the number of steps we need to complete. And on this first page, there's a number of pieces of information I need to fill in or can optionally fill in. So I'm just going to do this very quickly for the purpose of the demonstration. But I'm going to say the promotion should start on the 1st of August. And it's going to last until the end of August. And we're going to call this the summer specials. And go ahead and continue. Now on the next step, I get asked, for this customer, what sort of stock do we want to put in as part of this promotion? How much do we want to supply? So we're going to do an alcoholic beverages promotion. So we're going to add in some of our alcoholic beverages. And we can put in varying degrees of stock. And right down the bottom, then we can start to select, all right, how do we want to discount this? So this is a conversation I'm having with the customer while I'm speaking to them. So we decide this is going to be an off invoice variable discount on that stock. We're also going to apply a $1,000 fixed discount. And in terms of payment, we're going to give a 50% upfront payment and then 50% on completion. And then I can go through the same process with merchandise. So perhaps we want to add some branded fridges as part of this as well. So 2 branded fridges. Do we want to make changes to the standard copy if we're providing branded materials like posters? Again, do we want to apply an additional discount for the merchandise? And then we're onto that display agreement step. And on here, this is where we can start selecting, all right, now that we're giving them some fridges, we need to make sure they're at the front of the store or at the point of sale. So they're right in the view of the customer. And then we need to select, are the fridges going to be up at a different time? So perhaps the fridges will actually be put up 2 days before the promotion actually starts. And there has to be at least 50 displayed stock at any one time in the fridges. And we can also select promotional compensation as well. And right at the bottom here, we can see that new question that Richard added. Does the customer agree to doing planogram checks during the promotion? And we can make sure that the customer ticks yes. So they're aware of the stipulation, they're aware of the contractual commitment. And now as I go through this process to finish the capture of this data, we know that we've captured that critical piece of information. And we had to do it. There was no way that the field user, Karina, could not do that. So I've got some final steps here. Do the employees require any additional support? So maybe they need some sales incentives or some on-site training. And then finally, we've got some additional terms and conditions where the customer simply has to select yes to all of them before they can proceed with the final stage of creating this contract. So then right at the end, we get the summary, and we can go in and we can start reviewing all of the information that was entered as part of this guide. And then when I'm happy with that, I can click complete. So now that new promotion contract guide has been completed. The data is in the system. And as soon as I sync, that's going to be pushed right back up to Salesforce so that Richard can see this in the Aforza application. But how does Richard actually view that? How does Richard know what is going on in the field? And it might be easy just to review one guide that's come in. But what happens if hundreds or thousands of responses are coming in and he needs to manage and track those? Well, with the guides functionality, we also have our guide completion dashboard and our response dashboard. And this is giving me an overview as Richard of how my team is performing in the field, how many guides are being submitted, what are the responses, what's the revenue I'm generating from these, right? So I can very quickly see now as I'm logged in as Richard again, I can see all of the different guides that have been completed. So I can see in the last 30 days, there's been 7 completions, which is up 58% from the previous 30 days. I can see my team in the field, who's actually submitting the most guides. I can see completion by guide type. So I can see the competitor insight guide has been running pretty well. But actually 30% of guides submitted are this promotion contract, which is really good. I can see guides completed over time, guides completed by location. And then I can drill into the responses as well. And this is where I can see individually how guides are being responded to. So I can see there's a total of 500 responses, but I'm going to drill down just into the promotional contract guide. And this is going to update all the results. And then as I scan downwards, I can start to see the answers given as part of that guide. So you can start to see, we've been doing this in a lot of regular supermarkets. Some of the stock is more popular than others. And again, if I need to drill down, I can drill down into any of these. So I can start looking at that display agreement. And this is going to give me information about that particular question or step in the guide. So all of this is available to me in real time as I am getting the responses in from the field. And this means that as those guides are being completed perfectly every time, I'm getting the data I need, I'm getting the promotional information I need, I'm getting any sort of business data I need to properly change and tweak and tune my business to make it as efficient as possible. So it was a very, very high-level overview of some of the key capabilities of guides, but we're really, really excited about this because we think it's a brand new way of making sure your field teams are compliant, they're productive, they're efficient, and really they're just absolutely killing it when they're out there executing their visits. So let's do a little recap of what we saw. We saw Richard updating a new promotional contract guide with an additional compliance check to make sure that the field team is collecting the right information every single time. We then swapped over to Karina, and we saw how Karina in the field could actually then execute that guide, being guided through the step-by-step instructions, capturing the right information to generate that new promotion in some sort of joint business planning exercise with her customer. And then we swapped back over to Richard to see how Richard can actually track what's going on in the field, and Richard could see the answers being given, how many guides are being completed, to give you that holistic overview of how your business is operating, all in real time.